In March 1979, Three Mile Island nuclear power plant run by Metropolitan Edison experienced a failure in the secondary system, resulting in a pilot-operated relief valve being stuck open, allowing large amounts of nuclear reactor coolant to escape. The valve failure was compounded by inadequate operators and management, resulting in an ill-prepared team to manage the accident. These circumstances led to a partial meltdown of the Unit 2 reactor and a collapse of the upper half of the core. Met-Ed then notified the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, who then alerted Pennsylvania Governor Dick Thornburg and Lieutenant Governor William Scranton, who was assigned to collect and report information about the accident. Met-Ed provided vague information to officials. Scranton held a press conference and assured there was no immediate threat to the public and only a small release of radiation had occurred. Met-Ed claimed that no radiation leak had been detected. State officials turned to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to assist in the investigation and faced problems with Met-Ed's transparency. Radioactive material had made its way to an auxiliary building outside of the containment boundary. Met-Ed was contradictory, initially claiming the accident was under control, then later stating it was more complex. Governor Thornburg advised the evacuation of sensitive parties within a 5-mile radius, then extended it to a 20-mile radius. In the end, 140,000 people left the area. President Carter established a commission who strongly criticized Met-Ed, the NRC, and others for a lack of quality assurance, maintenance, inadequate training, lack of communication, poor management, and complacency. Operators and insurers paid at least $82 million in public compensation. The event also inspired Charles Perrow to create the normal accidents theory. On April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl power complex's Soviet-designed RBMK reactor exploded during a niche safety test. The flawed design of RBMK reactors and the resulting explosion released 5% of the radioactive core into the environment. The explosion created a feedback loop, triggering a reactor meltdown. The reactor building was destroyed. An open-air reactor core fire ignited and released radioactive material. Per the design of RBMK reactors, the core had been surrounded in a thick layer of graphite. Highly radioactive chunks of this graphite were shot out of the core and landed on the roof of the building and the debris surrounding the crippled power plant. Most of the radioactive material drifted to Belarus 10 miles from the plant. 35 hours after the accident, a 6.2-mile exclusion zone was created. Around 49,000 people were evacuated from Pripyat. Later, the zone was increased to 19 miles, where 68,000 more people were evacuated. This began a day and a half before the accident was acknowledged internally by the Soviet Union. Radiation alarms were tripped at the Forsmark nuclear power plant in Sweden, 620 miles away. These were reported to Swedish officials, who found the radiation had originated elsewhere. Following questioning and a threat to file an official alert, the Soviet Union finally admitted to the accident. Once the public evacuation occurred, the full scale of the situation was globally realized. The historical context of the event is a factor to why it's one of the most significant nuclear events in history. The rivalry between the US and the Soviets during the Cold War meant recognizing flaws in the Soviet-designed RBMK reactors was an acceptance of inferiority. In the end, some 350,000 were evacuated, and resettlement is ongoing. On March 11, 2011, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was hit by a 9.0 earthquake-triggered tsunami. 3 of the 6 reactors detected the quake and shut down. The generators designed to maintain coolant pump power were triggered. These pumps removed residual decay heat after nuclear fission has stopped. The 46-foot-high tsunami that precipitated the earthquake overpowered the plant's seawall and flooded the lower parts of reactor buildings 1 through 4. The pumps were disabled. As a result, reactor units 1 through 3 all suffered meltdowns and hydrogen explosions, releasing significant amounts of radioactive material. Reactor 4 was also significantly damaged. A later explosion due to passing hydrogen from Unit 3 to 4 through shared pipes damaged the rooftop of Unit 4. Fire from the explosion in Unit 4 caused the spent fuel pool to increase in temperature, leading to speculation that the water in the spent pool could be boiling. Later on, a visual inspection of the pool revealed no significant damage to the fuel rods. The evacuation radius for residents was 3 kilometers, then 10, and finally 20. Radioactive leakage was confirmed by the observation of radionuclides present following the explosions. There were no immediate deaths from exposure. The real tragedy was the 18,500 killed in the tsunami. Reconstruction and resettlement is ongoing. Charles Perrow's normal accidents theory argues that multiple unexpected failures are built into society's complex and tightly coupled systems. It is the destiny of such a technology or system to fail, and thus unavoidable. The factors listed in this presentation are merely scratching the surfaces of the true combination of causes of these accidents. According to Perot, in Japan and India, the agency responsible for regulating nuclear power sits under the Commission for Promoting Nuclear Power. Thus, the incentive is misplaced in promoting regardless of safety. In the United States, the NRC is responsible for the regulation and safety of nuclear power, while the Department of Energy is responsible for the promotion of nuclear power. Operator error plays a part in all three nuclear disasters. Nuclear power plants are ripe grounds for a catastrophe. They are too complex for their own good. In a vacuum, with excellent regulations and morally sound companies backing these enormous technological systems, small failures would still cascade into catastrophic failures. It is innate in systems like these. Perot argues in complex systems there are so many nonlinear properties that eventually the unanticipated interaction of multiple failures and inevitable interaction that Perot labels tight coupling may create an accident that no designer could have anticipated and no operator can understand. Perot labels this unintended consequence system complexity. A similarity is the mismanagement of the announcement of each accident to the general public. Perot explains these organizations are often guilty of failed regulation. It is impossible to scale down complex factors to a single digestible adequate statement. Despite this, it is obvious that the organizations historically tasked with the immediate consequences of these accidents have failed. It could be that normal accidents become more common. The solutions developed for some of the most pressing problems are only solvable through innovation. As new ideas are made more commercially viable, they will proliferate, creating more opportunities for accidents. In conclusion, these events are the embodiment of normal accident theory, a theory that may prove true as humanity requires more complex systems in the future.